Okay guys, so let's get started. We are going to start with 2 crossbars and we are going to use a blush sequin for our base layer. And we are going to definitely have on our fanny pack so we don't have to look around for our materials. And inside the fanny pack, for this particular design, you're going to have your pipe cleaners. Carry a couple extras just in case some fall. You also want your two crossbar hangers. These are the 3-inch. And then you are going to use some pins. Now you want to have some safety pins, the larger ones, as well as the beaded tip pearl push pins. Then we're going to be using, all of this fabric is the lycra. Different textures of lycra, but it all is either 4-way stretch or 2-way stretch. I'll discuss more about the fabric in that section. But we have some pink, we have some coral, we have some burgundy, and we have some blush. And I'm just going to get it all spread it out so I can see which colors goes where, so I can put it in order according to how I'm going to drape. Okay, so now we're going to start preparing. You're going to get your fanny pack and you want to tie it around your waist. Don't have it too tight, don't have it too loose because it will fall. And then we're going to start attaching or assembling our unit, right? You want to stick one hook into one end and then do the same thing on the opposite side. Now notice I am using the 6-foot adjustable uprights, so I don't need a ladder or anything like that. Now we're going to pick up our base layer, which is our very first drape, which is the blush sequin. And we're just going to thread it onto the crossbar. Now when you're doing this, you want to nestle the crossbar in between your neck and your shoulder to kind of give it a snug, like a snug fit so it doesn't slide out. Because if you don't have the ball sockets, your crossbar can possibly slide out of the upright. So just secure it, make sure it's snug between your neck and your shoulder. Then you just want to connect the crossbar back to the upright and slide your drape over. Now you just want to make sure that your drape is evenly dispersed across the entire crossbar. And you're not going to worry too much about the bottom because we'll do that later. So you're going to take your crossbar hanger and insert it into the slot. Make sure that it is facing the appropriate way. And these are the 3-inch. And you want to just make sure, like I said, it's in the right groove. So you want to put one on each side. Then get your other crossbar and slide it into each slot. Now, the slot that you use doesn't really matter. You just want to make sure that it's the same slot on the opposite end. So if you're using the slot that's outer, that's furthest out to the edge, then use it on both sides. Now you're going to start applying the drape that you laid out on the floor in front of the backdrop. Now you want to be sure that you're draping according to your style. So I normally take all the drape that's going on with the 1/2 and I nestle it in my arm if it's like not too heavy, so I don't have to keep bending over. And I know my pattern is going to be every other color and my middle is going to be burgundy. So I would drape this side starting with my burgundy or plum, whatever color you figure it is. And since I know both my middle panels are going to be this plum color, I just put them on at the same time. And then I'll just continue with my pattern. Normally, if I'm doing a short backdrop like this one, this is only 6 feet, I would just thread all of my drape on one side. I wouldn't do half one side and then go to the other side to drape that side. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to do it the right way, which is thread one side and then go to the other side and thread that side. So I'm going to finish this off with another plum panel. And I am threading this last plum panel. And once I get it all the way on the crossbar, I'll just reattach it to the upright. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to pick up my fabric and nestle it in my arms so there's not much bending. And begin to thread my crossbar. Then I'll attach that to the upright and slide all of my drape evenly across. Now, since this backdrop is only 6 foot wide and I know I'm doing a weave pattern, I want 6 panels and I want each panel to be 1 foot wide. So that would be 6 feet wide, and that way you can ensure that they are all even. Okay, now we are ready to attach our third layer, which is going to be a valance, and I'm using this crushed, same fabric, but it's a crushed texture. So it's a crushed stretch, or a crushed lycra, or a crushed nylon, something like that. And this particular fabric is only a two-way stretch, meaning it can only stretch in 2 directions. It can't stretch in 4. So when you attach the valance, you're going to look for the middle of the fabric and just place it in the middle of your crossbar, only for measuring purposes. Then you're going to go to one side of your crossbar and you're going to pin temporarily, only temporarily, you're going to pin the piece of fabric to the upright. So you're going to insert the safety pin into one of those slots that you would slide your crossbar in. In the next video, I am going to actually show you the close-up, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it doesn't have to be no specific way. You just temporarily placing it there so it can hold your fabric up pretty much. Then you're just going to slide all the way to the opposite end, and you're going to keep your fabric taut, kind of tight, not too tight though. And then you want to slide a safety pin on this side as well. And this should be a relatively larger safety pin, and you're just going to slide it directly into the slot, just like that. Now you're just going to hold the fabric up top, and you're just going to lightly kind of let it nestle down in your hands. The good thing about this fabric is it doesn't take a lot of skill. It just, it's like a set it and forget it kind of fabric. You just kind of let it nestle right in your hand, and it forms its own pleats. Now with other textures of fabric, you do have to actually pleat the fabric and do different techniques. But once you finish that, you're going to remove the safety pin, and you're just going to kind of gather that fabric up with a pipe cleaner. Make sure that your all of your pleats are still kind of nestled together. You don't just want like a big bulged up bunch of fabric right there. So once you secure your pipe cleaner with like 2 or 3 twist ties, you are going to take one end and slide it through that same slot. I'll show you a close-up picture of that as well. And just kind of let it rest there. Okay, so here's the close-up while we are on the other side. So that pin that you slid in the slot, you're just going to remove that pin, right? And just put it in your fanny pack. Now you're going to hold your fabric kind of taut, and just like you did on the other side, you're going to let that fabric just nestle in your hand. No specific technique, no specific skill with this right here. And you're going to keep all of the fabric in your hand just like this, and kind of looking in the front to make sure that it is forming actual pleats. And then you're just going to secure that with a pipe cleaner, just like this. You don't have to tie the pipe cleaner really tight, Just kind of give it 2 or 3 twists and that's pretty good. Then you're going to take one of the pipe cleaner strands and you're going to insert it through those slots. I prefer you use the slot in the back because normally if you use the one on the sides, it's going to kind of droop a little. So kind of always use the one in the back. So if you have anything kind of showing or hanging, it's in the back. No one really can see. Give it a couple of twists and you're good to go. Just like that. Okay, now we're going to make some pole covers, right? And these pole covers we're actually going to make out of just pieces of fabric. Normally I would have these sewn, like I have a rod pocket sewn, but I haven't sewn these yet just so I can show you an alternative for those of you that uses tablecloths. So as you can see, this does not have a rod pocket. It's just a piece of fabric. As of now, I'm just grouping it together just like such. And this would be equivalent to one full panel. Then I'm going to get a pipe cleaner out of my fanny pack. I'm going to wrap it around kind of snug just to make a secure gather. And voila, that is my pipe cleaner. I meant my pole cover. I'm sorry. So now I'm going to take the pipe cleaner that's on this pole cover, and same way I did the valance, I'm going to insert it through the slot that's on the upright. And you want to twist it in like 2 or 3 twists again, just to be sure that it's secure. Now you want to be sure that you are covering any possible poles, any possible panel like rod pockets. You want to make sure all of that is covered up. So that's why you're going to use your push pins to make sure that everything is closed off. And this is how you create the polished look. But you also, since these are the pearl top pins, you also want to make sure that they are not visible. So make sure you're hiding them. See, like that one up top. Once you raise it, I'm quite sure you won't see it. But what if, you know, this is something where there's a terrace up top? You wouldn't want to see that. So now let's just head to the other side and get a close-up of how to do things over there. Okay, so to get a better view, again, I want you to take your fabric and get yourself a pipe cleaner. And you're just going to twist it around a couple times to make sure it's nice and snug. You don't want this to be too loose because it's going to look loose on your upright. Just give it about 2 twists and you're pretty good to go. So then you're going to want to take your pipe cleaners, right? And you're going to insert it into the back slot that is on the top of your upright. Just like that. And you're just going to twist it again about 2-3 times just to make sure that it's there, it's secure. There you go. Now you can see, just give it a twist, 1, 2, and you're good to go. You want to push that access either in the inside or push it on the back. Just make sure that it's not visible. And if you can see your pipe cleaner at this point, it doesn't matter because your valance, and once it come all together, it's going to cover that up, which is why you definitely should have push pins in your fanny pack. See, so you just maneuver your fabric until everything is hidden. I mean, your poles, everything. You shouldn't see anything under there. And if you want to make sure it's secure, just get yourself a pin just like this, push pin. I think they 2.5 inches, something like that. And you always want to kind of pin from the top or underneath so no one can see the pins. And once it's all pinned, make sure you tuck everything and you're good to go. It should just drape beautifully, just like that. So the textured panels lined up with the nylon and on top of a sequin looks amazing. So now that you have everything up, everything is secure, now it's time to raise your backdrop. So when you're raising, you want to remember that you pull from the top, very top bar if you're using an adjustable. Reason being is if you need extra height and you didn't raise from the second bar, you're not going to be able to reach the third bar because it's already raised. So always raise from your very top bar, even if you end up not using the second bar. Then just stand back, make sure it's all even. Some of the uprights come with the etchings on the actual pole, which is great, but if not, just stand back and look. Okay, now you are prepping your panels for the weaving technique, right? So you're going to take, 3 panels go on, it's going to crisscross on each side. So you just want to kind of get them all out so they're not like all tangled in each other. So just kind of pull them out and extend them far out so you can kind of just see what you have and start your technique. Okay, they all are evenly extended. Okay, so now that you have all of them separated, 3 of the panels is going to weave to one side while the other 3 intertangle and weave to the opposite side. So you want to pick up the first 3 and just gently place them on the opposite side in a slanted position. You don't want to leave these panels like flush against the backdrop, which would be your base layer, because you don't have room to work. So that very first panel that does the weaving, you want to just do just that. You want to pick it up and start your weaving process, just like basket weaving. So once you start with your second panel, you want to go in the opposite direction that you went in the first panel. So if the first panel was behind, forward, this panel would be forward, behind, forward, behind. So as you can see, the crisscross is already starting to form. So then you take your last panel and you go under, and then you go over, and then you go under, just like that. Some people do the weaving, like weave their fabrics as they are already like attaching it to the pole. I think this is a much easier technique because you get to see it and you get to kind of visualize your colors just to see if it looks right to you. So now you're going to go up, you're going to raise your crossbar, you're going to raise your design to your desired height, whichever that is. This is going up to 10 feet. So again, if your uprights doesn't have the etching marks, you can just stand back to ensure that it's even and make whatever adjustments is necessary. So now that you have your height at its appropriate level that you want to work at, you start actually securing your panels to the upright. So you take your pipe cleaner from out of your fanny pack. And this fabric is so easy to drape. There is no technique involved, honestly. The main technique is the weaving pattern. There is no pleating technique because this fabric just kind of falls in its hand. So I normally, for my first panel, I normally always attach just above the knuckle on the upright because it kind of makes it more secure, because sometimes it can slide down if you're using a real like satiny or silky finish fabric such as these are. So I always put my first one right above the knuckle. And for right now, I am just really getting the fabric on the upright. I will be doing the adjustments once it's all tied, because it may not, once I tie it all, it may not be placed where I want it placed. So I just really got to get it on the upright so I can see. It also helps me determine how wide I want my swoops to be or how low I want them to be. So right now is I'm not doing too specific as far as measuring, but I'm just getting it, attached to the upright. So another good rule of thumb is I do use as much like things that's already in place that I can. So most uprights will have a 3 foot slots for, like if they're doing the lower uprights. So I normally would use that to my advantage and make that one of my measuring points, because if I go on the other side, it'll be the same exact height. And I just want to get a crossbar and a pipe cleaner and attach that to my upright. Get that all attached, and then with my last one, just making sure that the fabric is all facing the same direction, because it can get twisted up in the course of weaving. And then attach that last one. And I really would just kind of eyeball and look at the distance between the first two panels to try and just get a general idea of where this one needs to be, and just attach it. Just like that. So now we are going to go on the other side and do the same thing. So notice I am measuring according to that little knuckle that I told you guys where I normally would attach. But if you can clearly see from this video, although I can't see because I'm right there at the upright, how one swoop is a lot deeper than the next. Now, I wouldn't see that until I'm actually done and I can stand back and take a look to make the adjustment. So again, that's why I said right now, only thing I'm focusing on is getting these panels on the actual upright. And the way you measure is you just kind of pull it over according to how low you want your swoop, and just bring it to the upright, and then that's where you're going to attach it. So secure your panel with a pipe cleaner, and then proceed on to your next panel. You definitely want to make sure that none of your panels are twisted. So kind of, yeah, get all of the twist out. Make sure it's all flush so it can drape accordingly. Again, bring it over to the upright, right about where you want to drape. And then just kind of let it fall down in your hand. And since you know you're going to be making adjustments, so I definitely know I'm going to be making adjustments, I'm clearly not worried about it being perfect. Again, I just want to get it over on the crossbar. Okay, now it's all up. Now let's make some corrections. So now I'm standing back and taking a look at my design. Now it's time to make some corrections. I see where some swoops are wider than others, some are a little lower than others, so I'll go in and fix those. You see they're different sizes. They are at different placements. One is lower than the other. And I like the more relaxed swoop better, so I am going to mimic that other side. So right now I am making sure my base layer is straight, is nice and even. Making sure the very bottom along the edge is kind of, you should be able to see like a beeline. It should be really straight, really neat, and out of the way so that my weave pattern is able to hang, because it will sometimes, snag on the sequin. So you kind of just want to make sure none of it is bulgy, none of it is sticking out. And finish up your base, making sure it's neat. Big difference there as opposed to what it was a few seconds ago. So I'm going to make this swoop a little more relaxed and romantic, like on the other side. Bringing it down a little lower. And this is pretty much where it's just a lot of play until it's how you like it. So unless you have a partner that's kind of can guide you, that's standing in front, you'll be doing a lot of tweaking. Like you'll pin it, or you'll attach it to the upright, you'll stand back, say, hey, that doesn't look right, and then you have to go and make adjustments. So the first thing I normally would look for before I even pay attention to my swoops are my diamond patterns, which is the space that goes to the sequence. So if you see, you'll see 4 inside diamonds, and I look at those to see if they are all even, and that's how it helps me guide with the panels. Then as far as measuring how low I'm going to hang my swoops on the upright, I'll normally measure with whatever I'm close to, and which at that time was a pipe cleaner. But don't lose your fabric. I didn't even edit this part out because it happens so much. I want you guys to see that that is completely normal. So that's why I definitely wanted to leave that in. It happens a lot, so just go back and grab it, measure it according to, if you have a measuring tape, or if you're using a pipe cleaner, or if you're measuring at the slot on the upright, the 3-foot slot. Just make sure you're using the same thing. And then I'll make this bottom one definitely more romantic, and that's pretty much just going to be pulling my fabric up, making a bigger swoop because it's very, very thin. And there you go. Now let's do the other side. So I then stood back, I've seen what corrections I needed to make, and I'm going in to make those now. I saw that this panel was still a little too wide for one, and just needed to make some adjustments with my pleating to kind of make the width of the panel the same on both sides. So I'll just continue to play with it until it gets to where I like it. I know that this particular panel has to be raised a little because it's too low. So I'll go and make that adjustment. I gotta stand back and look, and I can see that it's still a little low, but my diamonds are starting to form as diamonds. So now just play, pull on it a little bit, just make more, small adjustments. Yep, make it a little more tight. just like that. Stand back, see if it looks even. Not only am I looking at my panels, I'm also looking at my diamonds. And now for the last panel, I'll definitely raise that to make it even with the other side. I'll look at it and, you know, fix little imperfections. This is kind of, for me, the fun part of designing, because it's like it's never going to be perfect, but you try and you try to get it as perfect as much as possible. Now, looking at that diamond, even looking at it now, for me, I'm really impressed with that diamond because it's just really even. And even if you're doing other kind of backdrops, you're going to start getting used to looking directly at your negative and your positive space. I know I'm just used to it now. I normally look at those kind of things before I even see the design itself. And that's just kind of let me know the experience level of whoever styled the backdrop. And now that I am satisfied, I will go and polish up my design. I want to take all the excess fabric and kick it to the back so I don't just have a big mess at the bottom of my backdrop. And then I want to take the pole cover and just kind of loosely cover up that base just to make it really neat. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And I'm satisfied. And now we're going to pair that with some sexy uplighting and watch what you get. So we're going to kill all of the lights and turn on 2 uplights. And I'm using the Parcan lights. I still love those lights because they give a lot of output. And voila! Hey guys, here we are going to do design number 2, which is the same weave pattern, just adding more colors and more panels because we're going to do a closed face. So what you want to do is just move your valance and your pole covers out of the way. You don't have to remove them, just move them out of the way so you can remove your panels off of your second crossbar. So any panels that you're going to keep for this design, you want to just kind of toss them over the back crossbar so you don't have to bend over to pick them up again. And any panels that you're not using, just toss them on the floor so you can pick them up later and put them away. So this design, we're not going to use the blush, but we are going to leave the burgundy panels because we're going to be adding some other colors to them. So once you remove all the panels you're not going to use, you're going to get the panels that you will be using. I normally just toss them over my arm so I don't have to bend over to pick them up. So this is the coral, and I'm just going to slide them on the top crossbar, the crossbar that's in the front. And then I'm going to follow that up with another one of the burgundy panels that I kind of just tossed over the back crossbar. And just slide that all the way over. And then I am going to follow up with the next color, which will be red. And the reason I'm choosing these colors, honestly, is just so you can see the actual weave pattern on the video. These really isn't a combination of colors that I would use for a design unless it was requested. But I really wanted to see, I wanted you guys to see them interlocking. And for this type of fabric, these are like the most contrasting colors I had. Then you're just going to put another panel of coral right next to that red. And then add your last panel of the, I don't know if it's plum, burgundy, but you're going to add that last one there. And then you're going to take your crossbar and place it back in the crossbar hanger. And then you're going to do the same thing for the other side. Now you're going to go get the remaining panels of your fabric to work your other side. So just like before, I would grab a couple panels, throw them over my arm so I don't have to bend over. And then I would thread them in the same exact order as on the other side. Starting with the coral. As soon as I find the rod pocket. Okay. So I'm going to remove that so I can go in the same order and start with my coral. And I hardly ever really thread a crossbar frontwards, but I just did it this way. I don't know, ease of access, I guess. I normally would do it how I showed you guys earlier. I would nestle the crossbar at the nape of my neck, and that way it feels more secure, and do it that way. And you're just going to continuously thread your panels. And you're going to finish it off with the last color of that plum. And then you can kind of see the pattern that's being created. I'm not in love with this color combination, but again, I was doing it so you can see a good contrast of colors. So now you have all of your panels on your crossbar. Okay, so now you're going to go in and kind of evenly disperse your panels. You want to first find your middle. That way you can evenly put How many you have there? 2, 4, 5 panels on each side. So once you locate your middle, you can use a measuring tape. But like I mentioned before, I normally kind of eyeball it at this point. And once I find my middle, I just would make sure each panel, let's just say the left half, has the same measurement and width. And then I would eyeball it and do the same exact thing on the other side. So to me, I kind of would look at it like it looked like it's between 8 to 10 inches each panel. And that's kind of how I would measure it out. Now that looks pretty even to me. Step back, take a look at it, and when you're all comfortable, you go to the next step. Now this is where you actually get to doing the weaving again like before. So you want to extend each panel out and kind of if you're working on the right side, you want to extend each panel out but kind of swing it to the left. And you're going to do this for each individual panel. It doesn't have to be super straight, but the straighter you have it, the easier it is to weave. Some people actually weave once they raise their once they raise their unit, and they kind of just weave the pattern in and out, in and out. I kind of think that's, the long way, because then you got to straighten it out and it's just too much. So normally this is the way I do it. I just extend all of my panels out, and I extend them out far enough so I have enough room to weave. Then I'll start with my very first panel on the opposite side, and I'll start my crisscross pattern. So if the first panel, I'm going to go over top, second panel I'm going to go under, next panel over top, next one under, and continue all the way over. Now when you take your next panel, you want to do the exact opposite of what you just did. So see how the coral is on top? So you want to take this plum underneath and then continuously crisscross all the way till it's connected with the last fabric on the opposite end. And just toss it on over. Now you can kind of see the weave pattern starting to form. So same thing with the next panel. Go over top, since that plum is underneath. And then you're going to go under the plum, over the red, under the coral, over the plum, and just drop it. Same thing for the coral. You're just going to continuously weave, making sure it's the opposite pattern as the previous panel. And now you're down to your last one. So since that coral goes under, you're going to be certain to go over, then go under, over, under, over, and swing it to the other side. And this is how it would look at the bottom portion. It's not perfect, but all of your panels are in place, just where it should be. So now we are going to just double check the pattern before you begin to raise or anything like that. Make sure everything is crisscross, interlocked it like it should be. And then you're just going to bring your valance back down where it was originally. So the good thing about this is, you don't have to redo it all over because it still is right there where it was. So all you have to do is just fix the valance, fix a couple swoops, make sure it's neat, and then finish it off with your pole covers, and then you are good to go. Now this fabric is the same fabric. It's a Lycra blend, but it is a two-way stretch, and it's a crush, meaning it's textured. So it's not as you can't manipulate it as much as you can with the four-way stretch, but it still is an amazing blend. And it gives like you know, some texture to the design. If I finished it off with just a flat lycra, it probably would have looked okay, but I really feel like the texture just gave it some added oomph. Now it's time to go up. You want to raise your backdrop. And if you remember, like I mentioned before, when you have a three-piece upright, you definitely want to raise the top portion first. Even though we're not going that high, you always just want to get in the habit of raising your top bar, because if you raise your bottom bar and you get it up there and need more height, you're stuck. So always raise your top bar first. So as you can see, that weave pattern, it's coming through. Okay, so now instead of me having on my fanny pack, I just stuck a couple of these pipe cleaners in my waist so they could still have easy access. And then I'm beginning to tie my panels to the upright. During this step, I'm not looking for things to be perfect. I'm really just trying to get it secure on the upright so I can later go back and perfect my placement. And since this fabric is real lucid and the texture that it is, it's not really a lot of you know, hand techniques as far as the pleating, because it kind of just falls in place, which is why I really love it. So my first piece, I normally always go just above the where the two crossbars meet, like just above the, I call it a knuckle, but just above where the buttons are, so it can hold the pipe cleaner in place. And then I just reach for each panel and I just let it wrestle right in my hand, and it just kind of falls in place. Then I will secure that to the upright as well. And all I'm doing with the pipe cleaners is just tying it around the fabric and then tying it directly to the pole. No specific way. I don't tie it too tight, because sometimes if your pipe cleaners do have wear and tear, they will pop. So as you pick up your fabric, you just want to make sure that it's not twisted. You don't have to worry about the pleating too tough, because they do, like I said, fall in place, but you definitely don't want your fabric to be twisted all around. And again, like for right now, I'm not looking for them to be placed perfectly. I'm really just trying to secure them to the pole so then I can go back and perfect my placement once everything is there. So that's what I mean by make sure your fabric isn't all twisted around, because it can totally mess up your design. And then that's your last one for that side. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect, just trying to get it secure. Then just go to the other side and do pretty much the same thing. Just make sure your fabric is not twisted and get it attached to the upright. Now, if you notice, this one I put just below the little knuckle where the clamps are, because I wanted that way it gives me a visual of which way looks better, a more loose swoop or one that's really swagged high. So that's the reason why I did it that way. Because when you up on the design, you really can't see it until you stand back, especially if you don't have no one helping you. Just fix your fabrics. And attach them to your upright just like so. Now this is the meaning of the closed face, meaning you just don't have any spaces in between your weave pattern. It's all tight and nothing but fabric, like a basket weave. And just like so. Just give it a couple of twists, not too many, because like I said, they can pop. And since you know you're going to be unloosening them to adjust your placements, I just give it like a twist, one twist or two is really fine with me. So as you can see here is a big difference from the left side to the right side. The right side is definitely more romantic. It's more like a flowy swoop, whereas the opposite side is like the swoops are a lot deeper and they go up a lot higher. So now I'm going to go back and take a look at the design to see what direction I want to go in. Sometimes I even take pictures just so I could see it in the device. And now I'm going to check my patterns. Make sure everything is as close to a diamond as possible. And I definitely like things on this end because it's more romantic. It kind of just flows better, especially if it's supposed to be a closed face, meaning the fabric panels are supposed to touch and kind of interlock together. So now I'm just going to make my adjustments and I'll do the same thing on the other side. So this is really the part that I really take my time with, like if I'm doing an event or anything like that, because it's really easy and quite fast to just get the fabric up there, right? But this is the part that I really take my time with and just try and look at my pleating, look at my placement, look at pretty much everything, make sure everything's secure, especially with the pipe cleaners because sometimes they pop. And I'm just at this point trying to make sure everything is polished. So I just want to close up the bottom, make sure there is no gaps there. And this fabric just drapes so beautifully. It's just so simple. So I'm going to kind of check it out. Look for any kind of holes where you can see through my fabric. Comb through my pleats. Make any adjustments needed to be made. And then I start working on the other side. I know that has to come down. So since I am doing this alone, I normally would have to adjust it to where I think it should go, and then I got to stand back and look at it. Normally, if I have someone there with me, I'll just ask them and they'll kind of guide me. Go down, go up, make it wider, something like that. So now I'll look and I see that the other side is lower, so I'll make some adjustments there. And sometimes I will use the actual extension rod to kind of just smooth out any pleats that's in the fabric. And especially things that I cannot reach, this is like the perfect tool. Now I see that big hole right there, that big gap. I'll easily just go in and fix that. Sometimes you don't have to take the entire pipe cleaner off. You can just actually tug at your fabric to kind of make a quick adjustment. If you want it tighter or looser, you can just kind of pull at it. And now I'm going to fix my pole covers, make sure my poles are covered and that I am hiding any fabric that is attached to the upright. Still looking for little imperfections, making adjustments as I go along. Now I'm standing back and looking at the design and seeing what is it I need to fix now. So now I'll go and get my rod again and just kind of smooth things out, make some adjustments. I'm seeing that that looks a little too high and I just want to push it down a little bit just to kind of even things out. Okay, now it is time to puddle and polish the bottom. So you want to go behind the, or you could do it from the front way. I normally go from behind because it's just, for me, it's easier. But you just want to make sure that all of your excess fabric, especially from your base layer, is kind of kicked to the back. You don't want to just drop it down and leave it bunched up. Then once you have it all pulled to the back, you want to come to the front to kind of just finish it off to make it look neat. It should be kind of like a beeline down the entire backdrop. Then you're going to go and polish up your base, covering up your bases, and make sure you don't just kind of have your fabric just dangling, in front of your backdrop. So you just want to, if you are using a pole cover, you just want to make sure that that is just neatly dispersed on top of all of your fabric. So all you should see is a pole cover, just like that. Then you're going to do the same exact thing on the opposite end. Put all your excess fabric in the back, kind of bunch it up a little bit so it doesn't look completely flat. And then you're just gonna take your pole cover and kind of just neatly cover that stuff up, just like such. And there is your base. And here is your finished product.